in a manner of weight is usually weighing about 1/10 of the brain mass. Okay? Most of the brain mass is actually located where in the forebrain, in the cerebrum and diencephalon. Okay? 1/10 of the brain mass is just the cerebellum. Yet, as I told you earlier, half of the number of neurons in the brain are located where? The cerebellum. So, if you look to the whole brain, it's constituted or made up of 100 billion neurons. Okay? 50 billion of them will be here, within this organ. Where is the cerebellum located? It's located in the posterior cranial fossa of the skull, okay, which is the deepest fossa, okay, in the skull, and behind directly the pons and medulla oblongata. Both with pons and medulla cerebellum, they will form, which we refer to it as the hindbrain. What is the function of cerebellum? Based on the large number or high number of neurons there, we would indicate that the cerebellum is concerned with a highly complicated function. This highly complicated function is related to the coordination, تعاون, okay, and synergism, okay, اللي هو ينقبضوا مع بعض أو anti synergism عكس بعض, okay, اللي هي coordination of muscles cone to produce fine, delicate movements, okay, fine, delicate movements, not just movements. So this is the main function. However, it also helps in regulating posture, balance, and the crude movements. Okay, but it's more the most or the largest part of cerebellum. Okay, if we divide it in a manner of function, I will speak about it into based on function. The smallest part, okay, in a manner of function physiologically, the smallest number of neurons will be related to the posture and balance. A little larger number will be related to crude movements. However, more than half of neurons there are related with the fine movements. Fine movements as when you type on the keyboard. Okay? When you, for example, play a piano. Okay? When you like to put the index of the tip of your index finger at the tip of your nose. This is a highly delicate movement. Okay? It needs coordination of several muscles. You need to contract the flexors of those fingers. Okay? And to contract the extensor indices of this finger, so you need to do extension, flexion, as you see. Then you need to flex the forearm, okay? And exactly to have this point to meet at this point, okay? So it needs so many coordination between muscles, okay? On which side? On the same side. Each cerebellar hemisphere, the cerebellum is made up of two hemispheres. Each hemisphere is responsible for this function on the ipsilateral side, on the same side. The left hemisphere for the left side, the right hemisphere for the right side. Okay? So it's opposite to what? To the cerebrum. Okay? Because cerebrum controlling the contralateral side. When we speak about the gross morphology of the cerebellum, as I told you, it's made up of two hemispheres, and in the middle, the two hemispheres are joined by a narrow bar. This narrow bar is resembling the shape of a worm. That's why they call it vermis. Okay? So we have two hemispheres, and in the middle there is the vermis of cerebellum. So this is a hemisphere, this is the other one, and this part here is the vermis of the cerebellum. Okay? Now, if we look on a lateral view, or in a sagittal lateral view to the cerebellum, we will see that it's made up of three parts, three lobes, that go from up to down, okay, in a curved way, if you want to imagine it. So, anterior, superior, posterior, middle, then inferior, anterior, again, okay, in a curved way. So we start with the anterior part, which we call it the anterior lobe, or anterior part of cerebellum. It's smaller actually than the middle. This is the wrong drawing. It should be in here. Okay, here is much better view. This one here is the anterior lobe of cerebellum. The one below, all this one here, you can see it here. It should start from the middle here, all the way to here. This should be the middle lobe, or they call it the posterior lobe, because it goes down and posterior, as I told you. So you have anterior lobe, middle posterior lobe, the largest one. Okay? Then you have a smaller one here. If you separate it, look at the cerebellum from below and separate it, it's made up of two follicles and a nodule in the middle. Okay? So they call it the flocculonodular lobe. Flocculonodular. Flocculus is, if you look, resembles the wool tuft. In Arabic side they call it كرة الصوف. خيطان الصوف مش بتلفوهم الطابق بس تفردهم شوي يصير شكلهم ايش؟ like this. Okay? Flocculus. Okay? And in the middle there is a عقدة صغيرة, small nodule. Okay? عقدة. So that's why they call it the flocculo-nodular lobe. So we have three parts in the cerebellum. Anterior lobe, okay, middle and most inferior anterior, again, flocculo-nodular lobe, the smallest one, okay? How they separated from each other? By deep fissures. Okay? The first one separates the anterior from the middle. It's a V-shaped fissure, as you see it here, this one here. And we refer to it as the primary fissure. Okay? So the primary fissure separates the anterior from middle or posterior lobe. Okay? The other one here, this space here, separates, if you look at it here, this one, this line here, separating the middle from flocculo-nodular, we refer to it as the uvulo-nodular fissure. Okay? And uvulo here is something resembling the flocculus. Flocculus كرة الصوف. Okay? Uvulus, the baby in the mouth, uvula. Uvulus from the Latin word uva, okay? Which means grave, حبة عنب. Okay? Because it's like a round structure. Okay? مثل حبة العنب. So they are resembling that fissure is the fissure that separates the flocculo-nodular from the middle. So I call it uvulo-nodular fissure. Okay? Both terms are related, by the way. Okay? So just to let you know, they call it like this because it separates the flocculo-nodular lobe from which lobe? From the middle or posterior lobe, the largest one. So now, we look to cerebellum from side to side, two hemispheres, and in the middle there is the vertex. Okay? If we look laterally, there is the anterior, most anterior superior. Below it, okay, more posteriorly, the middle, then flocculo-nodular lobe. Okay, so you go with them like this, down, curved manner. This is to show you these structures. So if you look here to the cerebellum, you can see the two hemispheres, and in the middle, this is the vertex. You see it here. This is the anterior lobe. This is the primary fissure. Okay, primary fissure. It's worth note here that there is another fissure within the middle lobe. We refer to it usually as the horizontal fissure. Okay? However, this fissure, the horizontal fissure, is of no, it's not clear here also, it has no significant morphological or clinical issue. Okay? That's why we don't consider it. But it's important to distinguish that. The primary fissure is not the horizontal fissure. They are different. Okay? Just there. So primary fissure is important morphologically. Why? Because it separates the primary from the middle. Horizontal is not important. It's just located within the middle. And the last fissure here, the uvulo from uvula. Uvulo-nodular. This is the nodule in the middle, you see it? Uvulo-nodular fissure, which separates the flocculo-nodular fissure lobe from the middle. Okay? In the inferior surface, by the way, also of the cerebellum, if you see this is a real one, lacinated cerebellum. If you look inferiorly, this is the medulla, okay, and there it will become the spinal cord. There is a groove here, you see? This groove, which ends up, the floor of the groove is the vermis actually. Okay? But this groove here, which is seen more prominent inferiorly, we refer to it as the vallicula. Okay? Vallicula means a groove, depression. Okay? So there is a depression in the middle, okay? We call it the vallicula. Lateral to the vallicula, there is two elevations here, if you see them. Those are the tonsils of the cerebellum. Okay? So they resemble this area to what? To the oropharynx. Remember, in the digestive system, we said that in the oropharynx there are two depressions, okay, located between the what? Between the tongue and the epiglottis. We call it vallicula, and on the sides of the vallicula there are tonsils, the palatine tonsils, the lateral wall. So if you resemble it here, in the middle you have the vallicula, lateral walls you will have two tonsils. So that's why they call them tonsils. It's a resemblance to the area of the oropharynx. Okay? So the floor of the vallicula is made by what? Vermis. Okay? Now, if you have a sagittal cut and you look in the middle of the vermis, okay? In a medial view of a mid-sagittal section, this is here we look in the vermis. This is the cerebellum hemisphere. We will see that the cerebellum is folded in into many folds. Folia. Okay? The single is folia. These are them. This is a folia. This is another one. This is another one. Can you see these? These are the folia, which we speak about. Okay? So folia, or the single is folia. Folia means fold. Okay? So these are the folia. Why it's folded? Don't increase surface area. So increasing number of nerve cells. And that's how we put back 50 billion neurons in this small structure. Each folia, if you look at it, is made up of an outer gray matter. Okay? This is the cerebellar cortex. And inner core of white matter, the myelinated nerve axons. Okay? These are the myelinated nerve axons. So a core of white matter and an outer covering of a gray matter. We call it cerebellar cortex. Okay? Now if you look to the white matter alone, you will see that the white matter is resembling a tree. Okay? This is the stem of the tree here in the middle, and it has many branches. And from the branches there is a smaller even branches. So these areas of white matter, we refer to it as arbor vitae. Arbor vitae. Latin word. Have you heard of curriculum vitae? CV. Curriculum vitae, Sirat al-Hayat. Okay? CV. Right. Vitae means what? Tree. Tree. The curriculum vitae in Latin means Shajarat al-Hayat. What happened with you, okay, during your life. Shajarat al-Hayat. So vitae means a tree, and arbors means branches of the tree. So it means a branched tree. That's what does this mean. Arbor vitae, you can see it very clearly in the vermis. In the vermis, in the middle of the cerebellum, it's a branching of the white matter in the shape of a tree. That's why they call it arbor vitae, the branching tree. Okay? You can see here the arbor vitae, white matter, covered by the cerebellar cortex, the gray matter. We can see the tonsil here. Here is almost, let's say, till here. Maybe this is the anterior lobe. All of this here, the middle or the posterior lobe, and this small one is part of the folliculonodular lobe. Okay? Now, in an internal structure, if we look to the cerebellum internally, we said that it's made up of gray and white matter. The gray matter is located actually in two locations, if you look. There is the outer covering the cortex, it's a gray matter, okay? And in the middle of the white matter, in the cortex, as you see here, the white matter, there is an island, isolated areas of gray matter in the middle. You can see them. Those we refer to them as nuclei. Where they are located, inside which structure? Cerebellum. So they call them inside, cerebellar nuclei. So we have two kinds of gray matter in the cerebellum. We have the cerebellar cortex from outside, okay, and we have intracerebellar nuclei, areas of gray matter within the white matter, in the core of the cerebellum. Okay? So we have nuclei. Those are usually 4 nuclei on each side. Okay? 4 nuclei, 4 aggregations of nerve cell bodies within the white matter of the cerebellum. So the gray matter is 2 parts, the cortex and the intracerebellar nuclei. Okay? Now for the white matter of cerebellum, the white matter is the central core, okay? In the vermis of the midline, it resembles, as I told you, a tree, the arbor vitae, okay? And so all of these white matter, so the white matter is arbor vitae. In addition, those myelinated axons will enter or leave the cerebellum, as you see here. So there is also white matter outside the cerebellum, but it's related to the cerebellum. Those we call them the peduncles of the cerebellum. Peduncle, I told you, it's the Latin, okay, from the word pedicle, which means foot. So peduncle is a small foot. Okay? So those are the feet up down the cerebellum. We have 3 feet on each side. Okay? The white matter that enter or leave, okay? The cerebellum will form a foot. 3 feet. One connecting the cerebellum up with the midbrain, what we would call it?
Superior peduncle.
The superior cerebellar peduncle. The other one with the pons, middle cerebellar peduncle. And the third one, this is the middle, you see And this white matter here is the middle. And last one, inferiorly to the medulla and spinal cord. We will call it the inferior cerebellar peduncle. Okay? So we have white matter, two parts also. We have the arbor vitae, the core, the cerebellum is white matter, and we have the myelinated axons enter or leave in bundles, three bundles. Superior cerebellar peduncle, inferior cerebellar peduncle, and middle cerebellar peduncle. Okay? Okay, now, so two kinds of gray matter, two kinds of white matter. And those are the ones which we will study now. Okay? We will start first with the gray matter. Okay? In the gray matter, we will study the cortex, then the nuclei. Then we will study the white matter. This is a real view, a section of the cerebellum. You can see in the middle of the white matter, those gray matter areas, you see them? Those are the intracerebellar nuclei. Okay? One of them. Now when we speak about the gray matter, we will start with the cerebellar cortex. Okay? When we look at the cerebellar cortex, gray matter, it's usually divided into three layers. Okay? Similar to the cerebral cortex. But cerebral cortex is divided into how many layers? Six. So this one is a little bit smaller. Three layers. The most outer layer of the gray matter, we call it the molecular layer. I will tell you why. Because you will see many small structures in a transverse section. You see these dots? They are resembling molecules. These are actually cutted nerve axons. Okay? So they are unmyelinated. Unmyelinated nerve axons in the gray matter, and they are cutted here, so they look like dots, molecules. Well, that's why we call it molecular layer. Then there is a thin layer made up of very large nerve cell bodies. This is which we call it the Purkinje layer, referring to the type of neurons here, the Purkinje cells. We will speak about them, and those are actually Golgi type 1, okay, cells. So we have molecular layer. Deeper, we have a thin Purkinje layer. Then deeper, we will have something we call it granular layer. الحبيبية. إذا في نقاط برضو بس أكبر شوي من إيش؟ من النيرف axons. Those dots are actually what? Are small, densely packed nuclei. بتعرفوا إن النيوكليوس بتتكون من إيش؟ من الجينيتيك ماتيريال DNA. Okay? When the DNA is cold, يعني heterochromatic بتكون inactive, okay? The nucleus becomes very dense. But when you look here, you see so many dots here. So these are densely packed nuclei, nerve cells. Okay? We call them granule cells. Those are the nuclei of the granule cells. Okay? And that's why we call them granule cells. Because their nuclei look like granules, like that. Okay? So we have a large molecular layer here. Then we have, you see these cells, those are nerve cell bodies of very large neurons. We call it the Purkinje layer. Then all of this is the granular layer. And after that, you will get here into the myelinated axons. This is the white matter of the cerebellum, part of the arbor vitae. Okay? This is another view, molecular. Those are the nerve cell bodies of Purkinje. And this is the granular layer. It will get down to white matter. Okay? So three layers, molecular, Purkinje, granular. What kind of cells in each one? In the molecular, there are two types of cells. Okay? The superficial ones look like stars, مثل النجم. So we call them stellate cells. Stellate. Okay? The others deeper at the border between Purkinje and the molecular. You see them? They distributed with their dendrites all the way around like a basket. مثل السلة. They form the shape of a basket. That's why they call them basket cells. Okay? Based on their shape. So in the molecular layer we have what? Stellate and deeper basket cells. Both of these cells are inhibitory neurons. Inhibitory neurons. Okay? They inhibit the signals that excite the Purkinje cells. So we have stellate and basket cells. Deeper in the granular layer we have Purkinje cells. Purkinje cells are, I will speak in details about it, those are excitatory neurons. Okay? And if you look to the Purkinje cells, they are located with their nerve cell bodies in the Purkinje layer. But their dendrites are actually deeply and distributed where? In the molecular layer. And their axons are passing through granular layer. As they pass in granular layer, those axons are unmyelinated. They don't have myelin cover. Okay? Once they start to leave from the granular layer, they will start acquire myelin sheath. So they become myelinated axons. Okay? So you will see the white matter. So white matter, mostly, not completely, or half of it is made up of myelinated axons of what? Purkinje cells. There are also other nerve axons. I will speak about them. So in the molecular we have stellate and basket. Then we have the Purkinje. Then in the granular layer we have very important excitatory neurons. Those ones with densely packed nuclei, as I told you. So we call them granule cells. In addition to the granule cells, there is also another inhibiting neurons there. Those ones, we refer to them as Golgi type 2 cells. Why Golgi type 2? Because they have a very short axon. Golgi type 1, like Purkinje, their axons is very long, okay? Can extend even for meters. For example, in the sciatic nerve, the longest nerve in your body. Sciatic goes from the where? From the gluteus region until the foot. Of more than around 1 meter, okay? The axon. So those are Golgi type 1. While here, we have two Golgis. The Purkinjes are Golgi type 1 with the long axons. The Golgi type 2 are there in the granular layer. They have very short axons. Purkinje cells, as you see in this image, so this is the molecular layer, okay? This is the granular layer, and this is a Purkinje cell. Those are the dendrites distributing into the molecular layer. Its dendrites pass to the molecular layer, its axons pass through what? From granular layer to the white matter. In the white matter, the axons acquire the myelin sheath. Where they terminate now, most of them, not all, most, few of them can pass out of cerebellum, but most of those axons of the Purkinje, as you see here, neurons, they will pass into the core of the white matter, where they will use synapse in what? In the intracerebellar nuclei. Another kind of gray matter in the cerebellum. Okay? So those, most of them, most of the Purkinje neurons here, we consider their axons as intrinsic fibers or interconnecting fibers, because they connect the cerebellar cortex with what? With cerebellar or intracerebellar nuclei. Okay? What are those intracerebellar nuclei which connected, as I told you, to the cortex through Purkinje fibers? Those are 4 in number. This is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those 4, the most lateral to the most medial. The most lateral we call it the dentate and musannana, because it resembles a crumbled bag. This one here, the red one here. This is dentate, al-musannana, from teeth, because it's like a crumbled bag, with many teeth, and its opening is medial towards another one here. We call it the emboliform nucleus. So the largest one is the dentate. Medial to it there is the emboliform, Latin or Latin, impulse shape, or like impulse. What's impulse in Latin? It's an looking matter. And that's where the word comes impulse, in blood. Okay? بيسموها بتسيبح الثرومبس بيطلع جزء بصير impulse. So emboliform nucleus, lateral medial to it, sorry, medial is the globose. Globose from the Latin word globe. شو الجلوب؟ العالم. الكرة الأرضية. كيف شكلها؟ Rounded. So it's a rounded. It's not one, it's mostly two. Okay? So you can see one or more even. Rounded cell groups, like this one and the other one. Both we call it globose nucleus. Okay? So we have dentate from most lateral, musannanate. Then the emboliform, then we have the globose, okay? Clear with me? Now sometimes in lower animals like cats, okay, both emboliform and globose, they refer to them as interposed nucleus. Inter, between, posed, position. It's positioned in the middle, between what? Between the dentate laterally and this one medially. This one is the fastigial nucleus. Fastigial, okay? Fastigial nucleus means the summit or the highest point nucleus. Why? This one is located in the midline, even the vermis, and it's actually in the roof of what? Of the fourth ventricle. In the summit of the fourth ventricle. That's why they call it fastigial, okay? It's on the summit of the fourth ventricle. So that's why we have 4 nuclei in a human. In lower animals, 3. They gather impuliform and globose together. Those from lateral to medial are dentate, impuliform, globose, and fastigian. Don't eat grassy food. That's how you remember them from lateral to medial. Don't dentate, eat impuliform, grassy, globose, food, fastigian. Okay? 4 nuclei. Why those nuclei are important? Because within them, there will be the synapse, as you see here, between the Purkinje neurons from the cerebellar cortex with the upper neurons, which will go now, those neurons now, you see them within the nuclei, the dentate, the globose, impuliform, and fastigian. The second order neurons, those ones, their fibers will leave out of cerebellum to form the peduncles. Okay? Cerebellar peduncles. So that's why those nuclei are important. So now, when we spoke about the gray matter, we have cerebellar cortex, 3 layers of the gray matter, right? Molecular, Purkinje, granular. Then in the middle we have the nuclei. Okay? Now let's speak about what? About the white matter. The core, the arbor vitae. In the arbor vitae, you will have 3 types of neurons. 3 types. حكينا 2 منهم اللي هم البيركنجي والنير فايبرز اللي بيطلعوا من وين؟ من النيوكلياي. So those neurons, based on their function, they will be either afferent coming neurons, okay? They will be afferent coming neurons like those ones in red. There will be either efferent leaving neurons like those ones here from the nuclei to the outside, okay? Or there will be what? Intrinsic, inside the cerebellum. Intrinsic connecting neurons or interconnecting neurons. Those are the neurons of what? Of Purkinje cells. Most of them. Because few of Purkinje will leave out of cerebellum, will be part of efferent. But most of them are intrinsic. So when we speak about intrinsic fibers, those will connect different regions inside the cerebellum. Mainly the cerebellar cortex with what? With intracerebellar nuclei. And in other words, those neurons or these fibers are actually the axons of Purkinje cells. So those are the Purkinje fibers, we call them. Those are the intrinsic. What about the afferents, which bring signals into the cerebellum? The afferent neurons that will get inside the white matter, then they will go into where? Into the gray matter. Okay? As you see here. As they get into the gray matter, they will lose their myelin. Okay? Those afferent fibers, they will enter the cerebellum through 2 peduncles only, not the 3. Through the middle and the inferior peduncle only, not the superior. Okay? The superior peduncle contains efferent leaving fibers of cerebellum. The middle peduncle, I will speak about it, completely 100% contain afferent fibers coming to cerebellum. Where they come from? They come from the cerebral cortex through cortico-pontine tract, which I spoke about it during the poems, but I didn't speak in details because you didn't study it. Now, nerve fibers that coming from the cerebral cortex on the right, they will descend all the way down until the bones. In the bones, in the anterior part, the basal part of the bones, there are pontine nuclei, I told you. Yes. Those fibers from the cortex, cerebral cortex on the right, will synapse in the pontine nuclei in the right. واضح? Now, the second order neurons from pontine nuclei will cross the midline within the bones and pass to the left. As they pass it to the left in the anterior part of the bones, they will form what we know as transverse fibers. So the transverse fibers are actually the second order neurons in the cortico-pontine cerebellar tract. Okay? So the second order neurons are the transverse fibers. Those transverse fibers will converge together to form a large bundle. We call it middle cerebellar peduncle. And they will get into the cerebellum. Okay? So superior cerebellar peduncle عكسها. They will go as efferent fibers. وبيروحوا على الميد برين. في الميد برين في lower part of mid brain, okay, they will deposit. Right to the left, left to the right, and they will go into the cerebral cortex. Okay? هذا superior. الميدل لا، الميدل كلهم afferent fibers. Okay? From the cortico-pontine tracts. What about the inferior? peduncle 75 تقريبا بالمية most of it are afferent fibers bringing signals from down, okay, from the spinal cord and from mainly the inferior olivary nucleus of the medulla oblongata. If you remember when we spoke about the medulla, we said that there are vitamins
and olive.
behind the vitamins. Another what is the olive, another bulge, the olive. حكيت لكم ليش سموها الأوليف؟ deeper to it there is a gray matter, inferior olivary nucleus. حكيت لكم كمان إنه الفانكشن تاعتها related to what? To motor coordination. فالسيربيلم بيعمل coordination مع الانفيريور olivary nucleus ومع الريد نيوكليوس اللي هي موجودة وين؟
في الميد برين.
في الميد برين cranial part of الميد برين. تذكروا cranial part of الميد برين حكينا تو نيوكلياي ريد نيوكليوس وأوكيولوموتور نيوكليوس. الكودال بارت اوف ميد برين في بس التروكليال نيوكليوس وفي امامها الديكوسيشن تبع السوبيريور سيربيلار بلاد. وايد ماتر، اوكي؟ So cranially, two nuclei, caudally, two structures. Trochlear nucleus with decussation. Okay? Now, from fibers coming from the inferior olivary nucleus in the medulla will pass through inferior cerebellar peduncle lowing into the cerebellum. Okay? Those will constitute most 75% of the inferior cerebellar peduncle. الربع اللي بيضل وين شو بيكون؟ بيكون efferent leaving fibers. إذا بدنا نحكي عن البيدانكلز بشكل عام، السوبيريور بيدانكل تعيد السيربرال كلهم efferent leaving fibers للسيربرال كورتكس. الميدل بيدانكل كلهم afferent coming fibers from the cerebral cortex. الانفيريور الآن هي الميكس. purely efferent, purely afferent coming، اللي تحت ميكس. 75% coming fiber afferents و25% بتقدروا تحكوا ايش؟ leaving efferent fibers. Okay, down to the spinal cord. Clear till now? So now we spoke about the cerebellar peduncles, the three ones. What about those afferent fibers اللي بيجوا mainly من البونز بالميدل cerebellar peduncle وبيجوا من الانفيريور olivary nucleus وعبر الانفيريور cerebellar peduncle. الميدل ومن الانفيريور cerebellar peduncle. Those afferent fibers are two types. We call them climbing fibers, متسلقات, and mossy fibers, الطحلبيات. Okay? So we have two types of afferent fibers, climbing and mossy. The climbing fibers are only the afferent fibers that come from inferior olivary nucleus. يعني وين موجودة؟ بس بالinferior cerebellar peduncle. من وين بيجوا؟ بس من الأوليف، من الانفيريور olivary nucleus. We call them climbing fibers. All other afferent fibers will be mossy fibers, which means the transverse fibers in the bones. Okay? اللي هم بيجوا بالميدل cerebellar peduncle, those are mossy fibers. Okay? فأنت بتقدر تحكي إنه الميدل cerebellar peduncle اللي هي البيور afferent كلهم هقول إيش؟ mossy fibers. الانفيريور cerebellar peduncle اللي هي بيت حكينا 75% afferent، هذول 75% معظمهم climbing fibers. Okay? Those are climbing fibers المتسلقات. Why they call them climbing؟ بيجوا من وين؟ من الانفيريور olivary nucleus. بيطلعوا عبر الانفيريور cerebellar peduncle بيدخلوا في السيربيلم as you see and they climb. بيتسلقوا. They climb across the granule layer, the Purkinje layer, then to where? To the molecular layer. That's why they are climbing. They pass across the whole cerebellar cortex, the gray matter. عشان هيك بسموهم المتسلقات. They call them the climbing fibers. Once they are in the molecular layer, where they will start synapsing with the dendrites of what? Of Purkinje neurons. They will usually each climbing fiber, كل واحد will synapse with 1 to 10 Purkinje cells only. Okay? Once it synapses with those 1 to 10 Purkinje cells, those cells are not allowed to synapse with another climbing fiber. واضحة الفكرة؟ Each climbing fiber بيختار 1 to 10 only Purkinje cells. But the Purkinje cells, once it synapses with this fiber climbing, exactly, it cannot synapse with another climbing fiber. Okay? They bring signals from the inferior olivary nucleus. These signals will excite the Purkinje neurons. The remaining fibers اللي هم الترانسفيرس بونتين فايبرز اوكي من الكورتيكو بونتين تراك عبر الميدل سيربيلار بيدانكل بدخلوا and they go all the way until the first layer. شايفين بيروحوا بشكل تقلبي كده بيمشوا زي الطحالب زي الالجار اوكي وذي synapse with the granule cells. الجرانيول سيلز الموجودات وين في الجرانيولار لاير فما بيتسلقوا للموليكيولار لاير بينتهوا عند اول لاير جراي ماتر في الجرانيول اسمهم موسي فايبرز. Once they come they will excite the granule cells. Okay, they will excite granule cells. Now granule cells will send their axons شايفين كيف عبر ايش؟ عبر البركنجي لاير لوين؟ للموليكيولار لاير. In the molecular layer the axon in the molecular layer, the axon will bifurcate, بينقسم, okay, into a T junction. زي حرف T, as you see, okay. And once it bifurcates, part of it will go to this side, the other one to another side, along the long axis of the folium. يعني لما أفرجيكم السيربيلم هاي الصورة دي صورة كويسة عجبتكم. شايفين الفوليا كيف؟ فالتيج لما ينقسموا هذول الفايبرز تاعون جرانيول سيلز اوكي على تي جنكشن